The Wife is First. Volume 3, Gathering Storm. Chapter 103, Cutting Off All Avenues of Retreat. Have the messenger quickly bring this over to my brother. Jing Shao frowned. Could it be that something happened in Prince Rui's estate again? No. Mu Hanjiang unfolded the letter and read it carefully again. Jing Chen's words were filled with caution. It seemed that the matter was not just about the Prince Rui's estate. Write back to brother-in-law and tell him that we still have half of the package from that time, that's all. Don't say anything else. Jing Shao nodded. Although he wasn't sure exactly what was going on, he had always found that listening to his prince consort was the right choice. He didn't remember any incident involving this medicinal powder in his last life, but then he was still stuck on the battlefield in the southwest at that time and didn't have time to pay attention to these small fires in his backyard. The letter was sent to the capital, but there was no reply. By the next 10 days, they also didn't receive any letter from Jing Chen. Something must have happened in the capital. Ji Huaiqing, who came on time every 10 days to read Jing Chen's letter, couldn't sit still. My contacts haven't sent any more news either. Hearing this, Mu Hanjiang felt some bad premonitions in his heart. In the recent past, the Empress and the fourth prince were far too quiet while Prince Rui's popularity grew to new heights. This is quite alarming. But then, given Jing Chen's cautious nature, he definitely wouldn't do anything too provoking, so perhaps he was deliberately laying low. No, I want to go back to the capital and find out what's going on. Jing Shao stood up. If something happened to his brother, everything he was doing now would be meaningless. Your Highness, there is a group of people outside the city that broke into Pingjiang City. The guard rushed in to report. The group of people looked very tough and had a royal token. The gatekeeper did not dare to stop them. Aren't you ashamed? You can't even guard the door properly. Jing Shao kicked away the small table by his feet and walked out with his spear. There was a large army stationed in Pingjiang City. Who would be so bold as to dare to break through his property? Nay, as soon as he walked to the gate, he heard the sound of horse hooves. The horses suddenly stopped in front of Ruo Shui Yuan as they raised their hooves and made a clear neighing sound. The person in the lead was dressed in dark yellow attire. His face was grave and stern, but instead of radiating anger, he radiated power. His looks were very similar to Jing Shao, but instead of a burning gaze, his eyes were very calm. Who else could he be if he wasn't Jing Chen? Gerger! Jing Shao exclaimed. Mu Hanjiang and Ji Huaiqing heard the noise and ran out. They saw Jing Chen sitting on the horse, followed by a dozen or so men in black whose breaths were silent and having imposing demeanor. When Jing Chen saw his younger brother, he couldn't help but relax. Suddenly his vision went dark and he fell off his horse. Gerger! Jing Shao saw this and made a move to catch him, but someone else was faster than him. He saw Ji Huaiqing jumped over and accurately caught Jing Chen in his arms. These subordinates are the Mo Yun's 18. On the order of His Majesty, we are here to escort His Royal Highness Prince Rui to Pingjiang. The men in black dismounted their horses and saluted Jing Shao. Mo Yun's 18. Jing Shao couldn't help but glance at them. He knew about these 18 people. They were the top experts from amongst the imperial guards, and they strictly only followed the orders of his imperial father. He's injured. Ji Huaiqing exclaimed when he smelled a faint scent of blood on the person in his arms. Quickly go inside. Mu Hanjiang immediately sent someone to ask for a doctor and then had someone to take the 18 people down to rest. Jing Shao quickly followed everyone inside. Jing Chen woke up as soon as he was put on the bed. He pushed away Ji Huaiqing, who was getting too close, and sat up on his own. Gerger, where are you injured? Jing Shao pushed Ji Huaiqing to the side as he was in the way, and sat on the edge of the bed. I'm just a little tired from the long journey. It's not that important. Jing Chen shook his head. Bulletin then, seeing that the two people beside the bed didn't believe it at all, he could only pull open one of his sleeves and let them look at his forearm that was wrapped in white bandages. We've encountered an ambush on our way here, but it's just a minor injury. Jing Xiao looked him up and down to make sure that there were no other injuries before he settled down. Mu Hanzhong dismissed a bunch of his servants away and brought them tea. The Moyans 18 has been placed in the guest courtyard. They insisted on coming over to stand guard, but I persuaded them to go back down. Jing Chen nodded, then he took the tea and drank a cup. What is happening in the capital? Jing Xiao took out the jade jar and bandaged his brother's wound again. Someone in court tried to impeach you by claiming that you are purposely dragging out the fight. Imperial Father sent me over to oversee the investigation of it. Jing Chen's eyes were deep. The matter was obviously not that simple. They think this prince was too slow after reclaiming 2 vassal territories in 2 years. If they have the ability, let Jing Yu come over and fight. Jing Xiao became very angry when he heard this. In his last life, when he attacked Huainan, those people also said the same thing. Later, the eldest prince and the 4th princess took their turns, but they were both beaten so badly that he had to be sent again to clean up the mess in the end. That's the pretense used to send me over here, but in reality, Imperial Father had me come here to get that half portion of the medicinal powder in person. Jing Chen explained as he looked at Mu Hanzhong. Mu Hanzhong was shocked, but instead of leaving to get that medicinal powder, he instead walked a few steps to the bed and stood behind Jing Xiao. What does Imperial Father-in-law want this powder for? The matter of the medicinal powder was originally related to the incident at the inner courtyard of Prince Rui's estate. How did Emperor Hongzhen suddenly got involved in it? Jing Chen shook his head and lowered his eyes. He then continued, Imperial Father urged me to leave in a hurry without even letting me return to the Prince Rui's estate. He only instructed the Moyans 18 cavalry to accompany me out of the capital. Hearing this, Jing Xiao and his prince consort looked at each other. Both of them were surprised and bewildered about this. With how things went, it didn't seem like Jing Chen was sent to an errand to retrieve something. It was more like he was being sent with an escort. Jing Chen went silent for a long time afterwards. Then slowly, he briefly explained what had been happening recently. Jing Chen went to investigate the incident connected with the nun Mo Bei at that time. It turned out that she had dealings with many wives of noble families within the capital. Because Jing Xiao told his brother that he felt there was something suspicious about the nun's death, Jing Chen went to investigate about it more deeply. He discovered that the Duchess of Mao was the one who had the most contact with Mo Bei prior to her death. Once the investigation reached this point, however, the trail had gone cold up until a few days ago, when a lowly concubine in the Duke of Mao household suddenly died of blood loss while giving birth, and neither mother nor child could be saved. Some people said that this situation was very similar to what happened to the late Empress Yuan. It sounded like a normal gossip, but Jing Chen felt that things could not have been that simple, so he asked concubine Zhou to casually disclose the subject to Emperor Hongzheng. Unexpectedly, Emperor Hongzheng's expression suddenly changed upon hearing about it, and he immediately tasked Jing Chen to investigate this strange medicinal powder. However, he had searched high and low within the capital but failed to find any of this powder. After Jing Chen finished speaking, everyone around him couldn't help but frown even more tightly. The more he explained, the more confusing things became. It seemed that this matter had turned into something really complicated. Let's not think about this for now. Jing Chen must be exhausted from traveling all night. Let's talk more about this tomorrow. Seeing the fatigue on Jing Chen's face, Ji Huiqing opened his mouth and hurried Prince Cheng and his wife out, while he himself didn't seem to have any intention of leaving the room at all. Jing Chen glanced at him and said, "You should go out, too." Ji Huiqing chuckled dryly as he was dragged away by Jing Xiao, who was gloating about his misfortune. They didn't know what was happening in the capital, as they were not receiving any news. There was also no imperial decree that came from the capital. In the surface, Jing Chen was tasked by the emperor to supervise the army and making sure that the fight was not being dragged on unnecessarily, but he had not received any details of this assignment nor how he was supposed to go about it. Though, Jing Chen didn't seem to be much concerned about it. He strolled around Pingjiang City and even went to Luzhu. He carefully looked through the overseas trade regulations that Mu Hanjiang had revised and suggested some amendments that Mu Hanjiang hadn't thought of. Ji Huiqing, on the other hand, abandoned the battlefield and volunteered to follow Jing Chen around disguised as a manservant and kept him company on his strolls. Jing Shao felt bored of waging war alone, so he left his generals to fight on the battlefield while he stayed at home, raising the tiger and keeping his prince consort company. Those who attacked my brother-in-law on the road were all killed by Mo Yun's 18. Mu Hanjiang glanced at the 18 people practicing not far away. These experts were completely loyal to the emperor and only obeyed his orders. Since the emperor had sent them to protect Jing Chen, it didn't seem that His Majesty had any intention of harming Prince Rui. There's no need to even think about who sent those attackers. Jing Shao wiped the treasure sword in his hand. Although his imperial father seemed to be protecting his brother, considering the strange circumstance under which his brother left the capital, he was uneasy to even think about letting Jing Chen go back on his own. I think. Mu Hanjiang looked at the 18 powerful experts and then at the sword in Jing Shao's hand, and fell into a deep contemplation. Jing Shao sheathed his sword and looked up at his prince consort. Maybe imperial father-in-law sent your brother to you so that you could protect him. Mu Hanjiang pressed his lips together. Although these words might sound a bit unbelievable, it was obvious that His Majesty had spent considerable effort to protect Jing Chen. However, with the authority that an emperor wielded, why did he bother doing it in such an ambiguous way? Ah! Jing Shao opened his mouth in surprise, and then sneered disdainfully. When did his father ever worry about his sons? If he had actually thought of protecting his sons, he wouldn't have let Jing Shao be easily implicated and imprisoned in his last life or for him to be chased to his death on that cliff on Fenjiao Mountain. Your Highness. Your Highness, it's not good. The soldier guarding the gate stumbled in. Someone from the capital came with an imperial edict and they brought a prison cart with them. What? Mu Hanjiang stood up immediately. A prison cart? Why did they bring over a prison cart here? Could it be that their secret deals with the king of Huainan had been exposed? He couldn't help but tighten his grip on Jing Shao's hand. Jing Shao calmly squeezed his hand back to comfort him as he asked the guards, where are they now? They have already arrived in front of the residence and came across His Royal Highness Prince Rui. This was the reason why the guard was so flustered. When those people saw Prince Rui, they didn't even bother to let him enter the residence and just branded the decree. It was obvious that they were up to no good. Jing Shao was actually very calm at this time. Holding his sword in one hand and holding the hands of his prince consort with another, he spoke with a deep voice, let's go and take a look. When the two of them got to the front of their residence, they saw Ji Huiqing pulling out the sword from his waist and standing in front of Jing Chen. Opposite of them stood about 20 men in military uniform along with an official who announced the decree. Behind him was a wooden prison cart and two people with shackles who were about to step towards Jing Chen but was forced to back away by Ji Huiqing's sword. The atmosphere was very tense. Does His Royal Highness Prince Rui intend to defy the decree? The official looked surprised. This official seemed like he couldn't be any higher than a third-ranked official. Go and call Mo Yun's 18th. Jing Shao whispered in Mu Hanjiang's ear. Mu Hanjiang nodded and turned back into the courtyard. What imperial decree? Show it to this imperial prince. Jing Shao reached out to ask for the imperial decree. The official felt confident and handed him the yellow silk scroll in his hand. Jing Shao lowered his head and glanced at it. It was obviously not the calligraphy of Emperor Hongzheng, but the imperial jade seal on it appeared to be genuine, as that one was quite difficult to fake. His Majesty has ordered us to take Prince Rui back to the capital as soon as possible. Your Highness Prince Chang, please don't make things difficult for us, the official said with an insincere smile. Prince Rui intends to poison his own imperial father and conspire to usurp the throne. This is an unforgivable crime, and if His Highness Prince Chang obstruct us, he would be punished with the same crime. When Jing Chen heard this, he felt like he was struck by lightning. His imperial father asked him to investigate the medicinal powder. Could it be because his father himself had taken this medicinal powder? Jing Shao snorted coldly and pulled out his treasured sword with flourish. Jing Shao, don't be impulsive. Jing Chen shouted to stop him while also gently pushing away Ji Yuhui's sword-holding hand. I'll go back with them. No. Ji Yuhui blocked him again, refusing to let the man in shackles get close to Jing Chen no matter what. Conspiracy to usurp the throne. When Jing Shao heard these words, he felt that the blood all over his body froze. Among his crimes back then, the biggest one was conspiracy to seize the throne. Now, this accusation that he had managed to avoid had now fallen onto his brother. Your Royal Highness Cheng Wang, please think clearly, don't. Before the official could even finish his sentence, his eyes suddenly widened. He looked at Jing Shao in disbelief and then at his own body. Blood instantly spurted from his neck, killing him instantly. Jing Shao flicked the blood off his sword as calmly as if he had just chopped a tree branch. The soldiers escorting the prison cart suddenly fell into a panic. Mo Yun's 18 are here to protect His Highness Prince Rui, who dares to touch him. A profound roar came from the courtyard, and then the 18 experts in black instantly surrounded Jing Chen, keeping him guarded in the center. Jing Shao pointed at the newcomers with the bloody sword tip of his sword and ordered, leave no one behind. Keep at least one alive. Mu Hanzhong quickly cut in. Mo Yun's 18 received Jing Chen's approval, and they all used their swords as if they were just chopping melons and vegetables. They killed those imperial soldiers in the blink of an eye, leaving only the burly man with the shackles alive. The man was so frightened that his legs went weak and he tremblingly knelt on the ground. He no longer had the ferocious arrogance he had just a while ago. Who are you people? Jing Shao put his sword against the burly man's chin and asked coldly. Replying to your Highness Prince Cheng, may you live 1,000 years. This lowly one is a jailer from the Ministry of Justice. The official who relayed that decree is my superior in the Ministry of Justice. The burly man stuttered in fright and honestly told everything he knew. Who asked you to come? Mu Hanzhong stood next to Jing Shao. This lowly one didn't know. My superior only said that he needed to go Jiangnan to deliver the imperial edict, and this lowly one simple followed him. The man suddenly fell down as soon as he finished speaking. It seemed that he fainted from fright. There was even a pool of yellow spreading under him. Jing Shao immediately hugged his prince consort and retreated to the steps as he ordered someone to lock up the burly man first. Back in the courtyard, Jing Chen took the imperial edict and looked at it carefully. His frown gradually deepened. This jade seal is authentic. The person who wrote the imperial edict does not have to be the emperor himself, but as long as it is stamped with the jade seal, it would be deemed as an official imperial decree. The people had been killed anyways, Jing Shao said nonchalantly. If imperial father asks, we can just say that we ran into the Huainan army on the way and they were killed by the king of Huainan's troop. When Ji Yuhuiqing heard this, his face suddenly darkened. How much more are you going to blacken my name? What does it matter? You're already considered a treacherous criminal anyways. Jing Shao leaned on his prince consort and bared his teeth at the king of Huainan. Xiao Huan climbed onto the soft divan and bared its teeth too, but it looked much more ferocious than Jing Shao. Mu Hanzhong looked at the three rascals who were acting oblivious to the disaster looming above them. He could only sigh and turn to Jing Chen. If this imperial edict is true, what should we do? Jing Chen's eyes were deep as he rolled up the imperial edict in his hand and slowly clenched it tightly. We have not received any recent news from the capital, so there are only two possibilities. 1. Imperial father really wants to arrest and prosecute me. The other is that imperial father is already overpowered by Jing Yu. Since the Mo Yun's 18 were here, Emperor Hongzheng must have given them instructions before they left the capital, so the first possibility was highly unlikely. There is another possibility. Mu Hanzhong slowly stroked the tiger's tail as he continued. Father-in-law was testing everyone to find out who really poisoned him. As soon as these words came out, everyone was startled. Jing Chen pondered for a long time before he said, "You could be right." The emperor must have been suspicious of him when he did not allow him to return to Prince Rui's estate. With Emperor Hongzheng's strategic prowess, even if his was terminally ill, it was impossible for the incompetent Jing Yu to have overpowered him. No matter what the situation is, we can only be sure once we return to the capital. Mu Hanzhong looked at Jing Xiao. Jing Xiao's eyes glinted coldly as he said, "I'll bring 50,000 cavalry troops back. If ever, we'll just kill our way back to the imperial palace." End chapter. The Wife is First. Volume 3, Gathering Storm. Chapter 104, Imperial Edict. It was rare for Jing Chen not to reprimand Jing Xiao for saying reckless words, but this time, he could only remain silent for a long time. If the imperial edict was not issued by Emperor Hongzheng, then the fourth prince must have usurped the throne, and if they, the excluded princes, returned to the capital, then they would be falsely accused of being traitors and would surely be eliminated. Whereas, if the imperial edict was real, then it could mean that Emperor Hongzheng truly suspected him, and going back to the capital would be a death sentence but itself. Mu Hanzhong looked at Jing Xiao and sighed softly. Things have already reached this point. We can only put our all into this fight and find a way to survive. With Prince Rui's qualifications, he was naturally the best choice for the crown prince position. Originally, they thought that as long as they acted cautiously, concealed their strength and wait patiently, then after Emperor Hongzheng had passed away, he would successfully ascend the throne. However, they did not expect that such a misfortune would occur. But then, it was rare for a new ruler to ascend peacefully since ancient times. That's the reason why they made those preparations in the first place. Jing Xiao understood the meaning behind his gaze. He grasped his wife's slender hand and then looked at his brother, who had always been as steady as a mountain. This time, he had the military power and the ability to protect these two people. "Let's go back," Jing Chen finally spoke. His voice was calm and reassuring to hear. "Death is preferable than dishonor." Without further ado, Jing Xiao left 30,000 out of the 80,000 troops south of the Yangtze River and brought the rest of the 50,000 troops in addition to his personal soldiers numbering to 5,000 to escort his brother back to the capital. Ji Huaiqing also wanted to follow but was unanimously rejected by the other three. At the moment, Emperor Hongzheng was very suspicious of everyone. If he saw the king of Huainan with them, then Jing Chen would have no other choice but to use force to seize the throne. The Huainan fiefdom was in an unusual location. From there, as a starting point, there was a direct path to the imperial capital. If an army wanted to capture the capital, there were basically no natural barriers obstructing their path. Jing Xiao never understood why the Grand Ancestor would hand over such a dangerous fiefdom to the ancestor of the king of Huainan. Whatever the Grand Ancestor's reason might be, Jing Xiao was now greatly benefiting from his poor judgment. As they expected, people kept intercepting and trying to kill them along the way, but that small group of soldiers was not worth mentioning in front of such a large army. For 800 li, there was only a great expanse of flat land which Prince Chang cleared through almost effortlessly. When news of their march reached the capital, the eldest prince led his troops to stop Prince Chang's army. "How much troops do the eldest prince have?" Jing Chen sat on the carriage and asked Mu Hanzhong, who had just entered. "Less than 30,000. Mu Hanzhong, who was used to seeing Jing Xiao fight, was not too worried. Jing Chen put down the book in his hand, pondered for a moment and nodded slightly. "Brother-in-law, what are your thoughts?" Mu Hanzhong couldn't help but ask when he saw him thinking deeply. If the army was dispatched by Imperial Father, the number should at least be 80,000 strong. When he saw Mu Hanzhong's eye glinted with understanding, Jing Chen gazed at him with a look of satisfaction in his eyes. Then he spoke further about the imperial military forces and its distributions. Along the road these days, Mu Hanzhong spent most of the time riding in a carriage with Jing Chen. Both of them were men of few words, but their occasional conversations were mutually beneficial. Mu Hanzhong particularly gained a deeper understanding of how a monarch thought about things and the realization that since his childhood, Jing Chen had been groomed to be a future ruler of the nation. Jing Xiao is good at fighting, but he never knows how to deal with other things. Since you have decided to spend your life with him, this would be a burden that you'll have to bear. Jing Chen looked at his brother's figure in the distance and said such reproachful words, but the tone of his voice was full of warmth. Brother-in-law doesn't need to be worried. This Hanzhong promised not to bully him. His relationship with his elder brother-in-law had grown closer in these past few days, and Mu Hanzhong couldn't help but teased him a little. Jing Chen glanced at him and slowly showed a faint smile. Nay, a horse neighed and Jing Xiao called out noisily from outside the carriage, "Gerger! Jun Cheng! Come and see what I caught." When the two people heard the sound, the two of them stepped out of the carriage and saw Jing Xiao standing outside the carriage. At his feet, there was a man tied into a rice dumpling with hemp rope. He was glaring at them with sinister eyes. It was the eldest prince Jing Rong. "Elder brother, has imperial father been poisoned?" Jing Chen looked quietly at the man on the ground before he asked in a deep voice. "Humph, if you commit trouble, you will die a good death." The eldest prince sneered, not denying anything. His eyes were full of resentment and madness. Jing Chen closed his eyes and took a deep breath. "Attempting to kill your monarch and your own father, you have truly gone mad. You are really good at throwing dirty water on others. Everyone knows that you can't wait to ascend the throne. Besides killing your own father, do you also want to kill your brother?" The eldest prince struggled and was about to rush towards Jing Chen, but was stopped by Jing Xiao with a vicious kick. "It just so happened that Jing Yu gave me a prison card. Let's now give it to eldest brother." Jing Xiao picked up the man on the ground and threw him towards Zhao Meng. He pointed to the prison cart not far away. It was the same prison cart that the official who came with the decree brought over with him. Zhao Meng didn't hesitate at all and lifted Jing Rong with one hand, carrying him like a sack of rice on his shoulder, and walked to the prison cart with huge strides. "Our troop only have these two carriages. One was being shared by His Highness Prince Rui and the Lord Marquis. Meanwhile this one was being given to your highness alone. It was all thanks to His Highness Prince Cheng's benevolence." The Right Protectorate General followed to join in on the fun. Seeing how the eldest prince's face was contorting into an expression as if he wanted to pounce over and bite someone, he couldn't help but poke fun at him with a few words. "When Hao Das Hao is not around, you seem to lose control of your mouth again." Zhao Meng threw the person he was carrying into the prison cart and closed the door with a clang. Amongst them, Hao Das Hao was the most upright. Usually when the Right Protectorate General started flapping his mouth, he would inevitably be lectured by General Hao. The Left Protectorate General stood silently watching the two bickering, then he stepped forward to close the big lock of the prison cart. If Jing Xiao had made the wrong bet this time, then what they were doing was equivalent to committing a rebellion, and the generals who followed him would have no chance of survival. Therefore, even though Hao Das Hao was 100 times unwilling, Jing Xiao had him stay in Jiangnan to stand guard there. If they ended up failing with this endeavor, Hao Das Hao wouldn't be too deeply implicated. But Zhao Meng together with the Left and Right Protectorate Generals insisted on following Jing Xiao no matter what. They had been with Jing Xiao's soldiers from the beginning and preferred to be with him till the end. Besides, it was impossible for them to shed their relations to Prince Cheng anyway, so they might as well stay loyal to the end. Jing Chen glanced at the noisy generals, turned around and got on the carriage again. The journey was long and the situation was critical. There was not much time for them to waste. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. How audacious of Prince Cheng to lead an army back to the capital. 100 li outside the capital was where the Duke of Mao's military troops were situated. Jing Xiao passed a glance at the Duke of Mao. Amongst the nobility, the Duke of Mao held the highest rank, so his military base was closest to the capital. The Empress really did a wise move to rope in their household through marriage. However, Seeing that the troops behind the Duke weren't even totaling to 10,000 cavalries, how could they be matched? As soon as this imperial prince heard that someone has started a rebellion, this prince personally decided to return immediately to eliminate the traitors on behalf of imperial father. Jing Shao pointed the tip of his silver spear at the nose of the Duke of Mao and spoke confidently. "Humph, you two brothers are the ones plotting to usurp the throne. His Majesty already knows about it. This Duke advises you to abandon your armor and surrender immediately, and return to the palace with this old minister to beg for forgiveness. His Majesty is so benevolent that he may even spare your lives." The Duke of Mao spoke as if he had already prepared this speech from before. Imperial Father is aware of the army returning to the capital for reasons known to His Majesty. If the Duke of Mao wishes to obstruct us, then show us Imperial Father's personally written edict ordering you to stop us and we will gladly put down our arms. Jing Chen stood on the carriage and looked coldly at the Duke of Mao. "Be careful." When Mu Hanzhong heard the sound of something piercing through the air, he pushed Jing Chen away. Jing Chen reacted immediately and firmly grabbed Mu Hanzhong, who hadn't had the time to dodge. The two of them rolled to the ground as a black arrow hit the spot where he was just standing. "Oh!" Mu Hanzhong got up. His smooth palms were scratched by the gravel on the ground where drops of blood spilled and soon dyed his snow-colored sleeves red. Jun Cheng. When Jing Shao turned around and saw that his prince consort got injured, he immediately became furious. When he turned back around, the Duke of Mao had already led his soldiers to charge at them. Jing Shao leaned back to avoid the Duke of Mao's strikes, then he turned back to fiercely swung his spear back at him. The Duke of Mao responded by blocking the spear with the back of his sword. The cavalry behind each of them had also started attacking forward and the sounds of fighting rang loud all around. The left and right protectorate generals did not step forward to fight, but they stood firmly on both sides of the carriage, killing all the cavalry that rushed over. Jing Chen pulled his brother-in-law to get up while the Mo Yun's 18 quickly stepped forward to cover the two of them. Together with the cavalry soldiers of the left and right protectorate general, they formed an impenetrable barrier. The Duke of Mao also fought in campaigns for many years when he was young. His martial arts skill level was way above compared to that of the eldest prince who lacked practice. Jing Shao found that it wasn't easy to deal with him. The Duke of Mao's broadsword was engraved with an azure dragon coiled around it, and he swung that sword nimbly towards Jing Shao, slashing to the left and to the right with each strike was delivered with considerable force behind it. Jing Shao parried a few of his strikes with the handle of his spears and he could feel his hands getting numb from the impact. The gleaming blade scraped across the silver spear, making a harsh screeching sound. Jing Shao immediately flipped his silver spear to fiercely block the sword, which allowed him to catch his breath for a moment. Does Prince Cheng really think that he is the #1 general in the realm? The Duke of Mao looked at Jing Shao with disdain. In the opinion of this veteran, Prince Cheng's repeated victory with his troops was only because veterans like himself couldn't be bothered to take the job, allowing him to take all credits and made him appeared so powerful. However, if he faced a real expert like himself, Prince Cheng could only take a beating. Jing Shao looked at the Duke of Mao coldly and acted as if he was getting exhausted. The hand that was holding his spear appeared to be trembling slightly. The Duke of Mao became more self-assured and began to put even more energy into his attacks towards Jing Shao. When he noticed that the silver spear was slanting down and his blade was about to reach Jing Shao's neck, he suddenly heard a slashing sound following by the sound of blood spurting out. The Duke of Mao was stunned for a moment before he slowly lowered his head to look at his waist and abdomen that had been cut open by a sharp sword. He was unable to react for a moment. Jing Shao held his spear in one hand and swiped it horizontally to give a powerful push towards the Duke of Mao, who fell off his horse with his sword clanging down to the ground. The sound of these attacks were completely covered up by the cacophony of fighting all around. With his left hand, Jing Shao shook off the blood from his long sword and put it back to its scabbard. The old duke was wearing armor from head to toe which protected even his neck. It took Jing Shao a long while before he finally saw that there was a gap where a cloth connected the armor to his waist. The Duke of Mao is dead. You should quickly put down your weapons if you don't want to be punished for treason. Jing Shao used qi to amplify his voice and made it reverberate through the battlefield. The soldiers of the Duke of Mao fell into disarray while the morale of Prince Cheng's troops was greatly boosted. The fighting quickly stopped afterwards. Jing Shao quickly rushed to the carriage, pushing aside the Mo Yun's 18 to get to his wife. As soon as he got to his prince consort, he hugged him and asked, "Where did you get hurt? Let me see." "It doesn't matter, it's just a scratch." Mu Hanzhong raised his wrapped left hand to show him. The intention of the Duke of Mao is to kill brother-in-law. He was definitely not following imperial father-in-law's order. This injury is so deep. No, you have to use that medicine, otherwise it will leave a scar. Jing Shao wasn't listening at all as he skillfully removed the bandage and applied the medicine again. Jing Chen silently glanced at his younger brother, who had forgotten all about his very own brother after getting himself a wife. Jing Shao then turned to the Mo Yun's 18 and asked them, before leaving for the capital, what was the order that imperial father gave you? The 18 men wearing black looked at each other and one of them replied, "Replying to your Highness Prince Rui, His Majesty only ordered us to protect your Highness and nothing else. It's been claimed that there is an imperial decree declaring that this prince is plotting a rebellion. Do you still intend to protect this prince?" Jing Chen looked at the speaker seriously. He had never questioned these 18 people all along the way, and these 18 had followed him all along. They must have been convinced that the emperor really had no intention of having Prince Rui killed. Now that they were about to enter the imperial capital, which was very dangerous, Jing Chen thought that he must confirm the position of these 18 people again. Jing Shao secretly gave the left protectorate general a meaningful look. In case that the loyalty of these Mo Yun's 18 was questionable, they should kill them all immediately. We have never received any other orders, so these 18 subordinates will risk our lives to protect your Highness Prince Rui. The men responded without hesitation. Mo Yun's 18 pledged in unison, "We swear to protect His Highness Prince Rui to the death." Jing Chen nodded slightly. These people did not change their allegiance to him even in front of Jing Shao's large army, and insisted that their loyalty was to the emperor alone. This was a clear indication of his imperial father's intents. The army can't come within 100 li of the capital. Let them stay here. Jing Chen raised his head and spoke to Jing Shao. Jing Shao frowned. The Duke of Mao was dead and there were no more troops around the capital. However, there were still 10,000 imperial guards within the capital. Zhao Meng and the army can stay here. My personal guards will continue to follow this imperial prince for another 50 li, where they would set camp. 50 li south of the capital was the place where Jing Shao usually organized his troops before each expedition. It was early morning the next day when they reached the camp 50 li to the capital. Jing Shao was actually unwilling to leave the army behind. After all, they didn't know what was the situation within the capital. Thus, he gently patted awake the sleeping soundly man in his arms as he wanted to discuss with him how to persuade his brother. His long eyelashes trembled before Mu Hanzhong slowly opened his eyes. Before he could say anything, the sound of horse hooves coming closer was heard. Looking carefully, he saw that it was the Minister of War who had rushed over with a group of imperial guards. "This official greets Your Highness Prince Rui, Your Highness Prince Cheng and Lord Marquis of Wen Yuan." Minister Sun dismounted from his horse and saluted. "Minister Sun, what is the situation?" Jing Shao asked. After so many days, he finally come across an ally. The Minister of War signaled to the imperial guards behind him to wait for a moment and went inside to Jing Chen's carriage. Jing Shao immediately drove his horse towards it, but he did not dismount and stood behind him. This official was also not sure. Minister Sun said in a low voice, "His Majesty has not been holding court for several days and all information are classified. A few days ago, the fourth prince suddenly announced that he would serve as the regent in His Majesty's absence. Then, the Lord Minister is here today." Mu Hanzhong frowned because he wasn't sure who gave the order for Minister Sun to come here. It was His Majesty's order. Minister Sun replied immediately. Then he took out an imperial edict from his sleeve and handed it over to Jing Chen with both hands. Jing Chen unfolded it and read it carefully. It was indeed in Emperor Hongzheng's calligraphy. The edict was ordering the two brothers to leave their soldiers at this camp 50 li away from the capital and enter the imperial palace with just the two of them. Jing Shao frowned and secretly slipped a commander's seal into the hand of the person in his arms and whispered in his ear, "You will take the left and right protectorate generals to the barren forest in a while. If you see me set fireworks from the capital, you must lead the troops to rush to the imperial palace." Mu Hongzheng's eyes widened, but he quietly hid his hands within his sleeves and nodded slowly. Then he squeezed Jing Shao's palm lightly, "Be very careful." Since they confirmed that the decree was indeed from Emperor Hongzheng, they could not disobey it. Jing Shao left Xiao He with his prince consort and got into the carriage with his brother, then headed towards the imperial city with only the Mo Yun's 18. The entire imperial palace was silent. The imperial guards' faces were tense and serious. When they got off the carriage, they saw Ye Qian, the chief eunuch who had always served by Emperor Hongzheng's side. He stood quietly outside the carriage. "Your Highnesses, please come with this servant." Ye Qian Gong's face was rarely without a smile, and he quietly led the two of them directly to the palace of Emperor Hongzheng. The Mo Yun's 18 were originally the emperor's personal guards, and no one stopped them as they followed along. When they reached the jade steps, Ye Qian stopped leading the two people up. Instead, he left the Mo Yun's 18 at the bottom of the steps and led the two brothers in through the side door behind the main hall. There were 8 tall guards guarding the door who asked them to remove all their weapons. Jing Shao frowned and was about to lose his temper when his brother held down his arm and signaled for him not to act rashly. He then handed the small porcelain vase in his hands to Ye Qian Gong and said, "This is what my imperial father told me to look for. Please hand this over to His Majesty." The two of them took off all their weapons and were not even allowed to keep their jade belts, so they walked in wearing loose robes. Bang! The door behind them suddenly closed loudly. Jing Shao saw the scene in front of them, and suddenly, all the hairs all over his body stood up. In front of them was a long corridor. Candles were lit on both sides, so the passage was not dim, but without weapons on this narrow path. If there was any secret mechanism waiting to ambush them on this narrow hallway, the two of them would die a tragic death. Jing Chen felt the same, but he went closer to his brother and whispered, "Don't panic, let's just go quickly." Jing Shao nodded and said, "I'll walk in front, Gerger should walk behind me." Afterwards, he broke off a candle holder that was embedded in the wall. The hollow brass candle holder was about a foot long. It was not a good weapon, but it was better than nothing. Jing Chen nodded and walked close to his brother while they quickly rushed towards the end of the corridor. In reality, the corridor was not very long. Walking through it just felt extremely long given the circumstances. As soon as they reached the end, the wooden doors opened by themselves. Jing Shao immediately used the candle holder to block in front of him as the light emerged from the inside. The two brothers squinted their eyes until their sight adjusted and they finally saw the situation in the room clearly. Jing Shao immediately threw down the candle holder. At the end of the corridor was the inner room of Emperor Hongzheng's chamber. The two of them walked in and came face to face with Emperor Hongzheng, who was lying in bed. "Quickly come over." Emperor Hongzheng leaned on the bedside and stared at Jing Shao. The brothers quickly walked over and knelt down in front of the bed to salute. Ye Qian Gong was already standing steadily at the head of the bed, and there was also an imperial doctor who was holding the small porcelain bottle to examine it. "Jing Shao, did you kill the Duke of Mao yesterday?" Emperor Hongzheng did not pay any attention to what the imperial physician was doing. He leaned on that big pillow at the head of the bed and closed his eyes to rest. "Yes, Your Majesty." Jing Shao lowered his head. "The Duke of Mao led his troops to prevent this prince from entering the capital with the intention of assassinating second imperial brother. This son had no choice but to kill him." He said this without any intention of admitting any mistake on his part. Emperor Hongzheng didn't say anything more and only asked, "Where is Jing Rong?" Replying to imperial father, The eldest prince and the army are in a camp 100 li outside the capital. Jing Shao replied honestly. But of course he did not mention that the eldest prince was inside a prison cart. Your Majesty, the imperial physician by the side suddenly spoke. This medicine is a folk remedy. A small amount of it can stop high fever. However, this medicine is basically dangerous as taking the wrong dosage of it would turn it into a poison and there was no known cure that could counter it. This subject is incompetent. As he spoke, he knelt down with a plop and cried in sorrow. Emperor Hongzheng opened his eyes and looked quietly at the two brothers kneeling in front of his bed. Jing Chen raised his head and looked at the imperial doctor in shock, and then at Emperor Hongzheng. Jing Shao was also a little confused. Your imperial mother was poisoned by this kind of poison back then. Emperor Hongzheng took the small porcelain bottle and looked at it carefully. He ignored the two brothers who looked as if they were struck by lightning and said in a calm voice, "Now, Zhen will also succumb to it." "Father!" Jing Shao cried out. Emperor Hongzheng in his previous life clearly lived longer than this son. How could this be happening now? Jing Shao, you have been fighting for the imperial family for many years. Throughout the empire, there is no one who could be a match with you. Emperor Hongzheng's face was reddish and he spoke in a leisurely manner. He did not appear like a person who was succumbing to poisoning at all. Zhen wishes to pass the throne to you, are you willing? Boom. Crack. Jing Shao felt as if a thunderbolt had struck his soul. He was truly struck dumbfounded. In the previous life, he worked hard for the empire but once he outlived his usefulness, he ended up with nothing. In this life, he cheated and he schemed, all his actions and decision were all for selfish reasons and yet, his imperial father unexpectedly wanted him to succeed the throne this time. What a major joke! Jing Shao was silent for a long time. Without looking at the expression on his brother's face at his side, he enunciated every word, "Imperial father, this son is not willing." "Why?" Emperor Hongzheng asked as he stared into Jing Shao's eyes. Jing Shao raised his head and looked directly at his father as he replied, "The son is just a military general and knows nothing about governing an empire. Moreover, this son loves Mu Hanzhong dearly and wants to stay with only him for the rest of his life. If imperial father hand over these thousands of miles of rivers and mountains to the son, I'm afraid that it will be ruined under the son's rule overnight." Emperor Hongzheng looked at him quietly for a while, then he leaned back slowly. With a hint of fatigue in his voice, he ordered, "Announce the decree." As soon as he finished speaking, they saw two people slowly walking out from behind the screen. It was the Minister of the Ministry of Appointments and Xiao Yuan, the Assistant Minister of the Ministry of Appointments. Xiao Yuan held a long wooden box and followed behind the minister, his gaze never strayed from in front of him. The Minister of the Ministry of Appointments took out a decree and loudly proclaimed, "Prince Chang Jing Shao has committed treason and will be incarcerated in the imperial prison for the rest of his life." Jing Chen's eyes widened as he exclaimed in a grim voice, "Imperial father." Emperor Hongzheng waved his hand to stop him from speaking. Meanwhile the Minister of Appointments put away the first decree and took out another one. He thus proclaimed, "Prince Chang Jing Shao is of exceptional bravery. Before the new emperor ascends the throne and the new imperial guards were chosen, the empire will be placed under his jurisdiction. He will be granted full authority to declare martial law with the permission to execute any of the other princes and imperial grandchildren. On the day the new emperor ascends the throne, he would be granted an additional title as the crown prince of the empire." End chapter.